Imagine standing in front of a door you've been waiting to open for months. You knock, you wait, you hope. And then the answer comes not in the form of an invitation, not in the form of opportunity, but in silence, or worse, a simple word, no. That's it. Door closed, opportunity gone. In that moment, your heart sinks, your chest tightens. You start asking yourself, why not me? What did I do wrong? Am I not good enough? But here's the truth. Every single one of us will face rejection. It is inevitable. It doesn't matter how talented, smart, or hardworking you are. Rejection will find its way into your life. The question isn't whether you will be rejected. The real question is, what will you do when it happens? Will you let it define you, or will you let it refine you? Most people see rejection as an ending. They see it as proof that they're not worthy, that they don't belong, that they should stop trying. But what if rejection is not an ending at all? What if rejection is the universe's way of saying, this is not your door. Keep walking. There's a better one waiting for you. Think about it. How many times in your life have you looked back and realized that what once broke your heart, what once made you feel unworthy, was actually the very thing that saved you? That job you didn't get, that relationship that didn't work out, that opportunity that slipped through your fingers, what if they weren't losses, but redirections? Rejection has a way of shaking you awake. It makes you confront yourself. It tests your resilience. It forces you to grow in ways that comfort never could. You see, rejection is not a punishment. It's preparation. It's life shaping you, molding you, and pointing you towards something bigger, something better, something that fits who you're becoming. So if you've been rejected, whether by a person, an opportunity, or even by life itself, I want you to listen closely. Don't turn away. Don't close your heart. Because inside that no you just heard, there is something powerful waiting for you. There is a lesson. There is a redirection. And if you accept it, truly accept it, you'll find strength you never knew you had. Now let me ask you, are you willing to see rejection differently? Are you willing to stop fighting it, stop fearing it, and instead embrace it as part of your journey? Because if you are, then what once felt like the end will soon feel like the beginning. When you hear the word no, the first instinct most people have is to take it personally. It feels like a judgment on who you are, on your worth, on your value as a human being. You start to replay everything in your head. What you said, what you did, how you look. You convince yourself that rejection means you're not good enough. That somehow you've been weighed and measured and found lacking. But that's where most people make the mistake that keeps them stuck. Rejection is not about you. It's about direction. Think about it like this. You're walking down a road, and suddenly you come across a wall. You push against it. You bang your fists. You scream, why won't you let me through? That wall feels unfair. It feels personal. But the wall isn't there to punish you. The wall is there to redirect you, to force you to take another path, one that will lead you to where you actually belong. Life is full of those walls. Some come in the form of failed interviews, others come as broken relationships. Sometimes it's a friend who doesn't support you, or an opportunity that vanishes just when you thought it was within reach. But none of these things are signs that you are less. They are signs that the road you were trying to walk down isn't your road. Many people waste years fighting for a closed door, desperate to force their way into something that was never meant for them. They cling to the idea that success, happiness, or love has to come from that one specific place, that one person, that one job. But what they don't see is that rejection is often life's way of saying, this isn't it, keep moving. And the longer you resist, the more energy you waste on what's not meant for you instead of preparing yourself for what is. There's an old saying that rejection is protection. At first, it sounds cliché, but if you've lived long enough, you know it's true. How many times have you looked back at something you desperately wanted, someone you wanted to be with, a position you thought you needed, an outcome you prayed for, only to realize later that if you had gotten it, it would have destroyed you? Sometimes the greatest gift is the no you didn't want to hear. When you understand this, rejection stops being a personal attack and becomes a compass. It stops being a wound and starts being a warning sign that you're heading the wrong way. Instead of crying, "Why me?" you start asking, "Where next?" That shift alone changes everything, because when you take rejection personally, you become stuck in shame and doubt. But when you see it as direction, you take back your power. You start moving again. You start growing again. Let me tell you something. The people who succeed in life are not the ones who never face rejection. They are the ones who refuse to let rejection paralyze them. They learn how to pivot, they accept the closed door, and instead of wasting their energy begging to be let in, they go and build another one. Every successful person you admire has a trail of no's behind them. And if you asked them, most of them would tell you that those no's were the very things that put them on the path to their ultimate yes. Think of it this way. Rejection is a filter. It removes what isn't aligned with you. It removes the jobs that would suffocate your potential, the relationships that would drain your spirit, the opportunities that would limit your growth. You can't always see it in the moment, but every rejection is clearing space for something better to arrive. And when that better finally comes, you will look back and realize that the rejection wasn't against you. It was for you. But here's the challenge. To see rejection as direction, you have to let go of the ego. You have to stop needing validation from everyone and everything, because often what makes rejection hurt so deeply isn't just the loss of opportunity, it's the feeling of being unchosen. We want people to see us, pick us, approve of us. And when they don't, we translate that into a lack of worth. But what if you didn't need their yes to validate you? What if their rejection was simply a misalignment, not a reflection of who you are? When you detach your value from someone else's opinion, rejection loses its sting. It becomes information, not condemnation. Rejection also forces you to ask better questions. Instead of spiraling into "what's wrong with me?" you begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me? Where is this trying to send me?" And once you start asking those questions, your perspective shifts. You begin to see rejection as part of your growth. You start to realize that without it, you'd probably settle for less than you deserve. Without it, you might never dig deeper, never sharpen your skills, never expand into the person you're meant to become. Life doesn't always give you what you want, but it always gives you what you need to become who you're supposed to be. Sometimes that comes in the form of acceptance, and sometimes that comes in the form of rejection. The problem is, most of us only embrace the first and run from the second. But both are necessary. Both are part of the journey. So the next time you're rejected, remember this: it's not a verdict on your worth. It's a redirection towards something else. Something that aligns with your future, something that fits your purpose, something you cannot yet see. Don't waste your strength trying to convince someone to accept you. Use your strength to walk into the direction that's waiting for you. Because rejection doesn't end your story. It just changes the chapter. And sometimes it's the very thing that takes you to the place you were meant to be all along. Rejection stings, there's no denying it. That moment when you hear the word no, when the opportunity you hoped for slips away, when someone you trusted decides you're not what they want. That pain is sharp, raw, and real. It can feel like someone has just punched you in the chest. And the natural instinct is to retreat, to curl up, to protect yourself by avoiding situations where you might face that pain again. But here's the truth: if you run from rejection, you stay weak. If you embrace it, you build armor, not the kind of armor that makes you cold or detached, but the kind that makes you strong, unshakable, and able to face life head on without breaking apart every time things don't go your way. The world is not soft. Life doesn't hand you everything you want tied up neatly with a bow. People won't always see your value. They won't always say yes. And if every no leaves you shattered, you'll never survive the long road to becoming the best version of yourself. That's why rejection is necessary. It trains you, it forces you to toughen your spirit, to strengthen your emotions, to stop depending on outside approval for your inner stability. Rejection, as painful as it is the very thing that conditions you for resilience. Think about how muscles are built. You don't grow stronger by lying in bed, avoiding all discomfort. You grow stronger by resistance, by lifting weight that pushes against you, by tearing fibers so they can rebuild thicker and more powerful. Rejection works the same way. Every time you face it and survive it, you're adding another layer of strength. Every no you get that you learn to process and rise from is another fiber rebuilding, stronger in your character. The first time it hurts. The second time it stings, but you recognize the feeling. The third time you start to bounce back quicker. By the 10th time, you no longer see rejection as devastation. You see it as part of the process. When you've built emotional armor through rejection, you stop begging for validation. You stop letting people's opinions control your mood, your sense of self, and your direction. That armor doesn't mean you don't feel disappointment. It means you don't collapse under it. It means you can face failure, hear no, experience loss, and still move forward. And that's powerful, because the most dangerous person in any arena, whether it's business, relationships, or personal growth, is the one who cannot be broken by rejection. But let's be honest, most people never get to this point because they avoid the pain. They don't put themselves in situations where they might be rejected. They stop applying for opportunities because of the last no. They stop putting their heart into relationships because of the last heartbreak. They shrink, they withdraw, they hide. And in doing so, they rob themselves of the very experiences that would have made them tougher. Comfort feels safe, but it keeps you fragile. Exposure to rejection, over and over again, is what makes you indestructible. The irony is that we often admire people for their resilience without realizing that what made them resilient was rejection. Every successful author you know has a stack of rejection letters. Every business leader you admire has faced rejection from investors, partners, or customers. Every strong person you look up to has been told countless times, "You're not good enough." They weren't born with armor, they built it through pain, through disappointment, through doors slammed in their faces. The only difference between them and the people who quit is that they didn't let rejection break them, they let it shape them. And let's clear something up. Building emotional armor doesn't mean becoming hard-hearted or numb. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about your purpose, your growth, and your vision that you refuse to let rejection derail you. It means you acknowledge the pain, but you don't let it control your decisions. It means you allow yourself to feel, but you never allow yourself to stay down. That's the kind of armor rejection builds. Think about how unstoppable you'd become if rejection didn't scare you anymore. If instead of fearing it, you welcomed it as training. If instead of dreading the word no, you saw it as a stepping stone. Imagine how much more you'd try, how much further you'd go, how much braver you'd be if rejection lost its power to wound you. That is the gift rejection offers, if you let it. The people who are crushed by rejection are those who never learned to use it. They see it as a sign to stop. The people who rise are those who take rejection and let it fuel them. They think, "You didn't choose me? That's fine. I'll sharpen my skills. I'll prepare more. I'll prove that I belong. Not to you, but to myself." And in doing so, they become resilient in a way that no one can take away. Because once you've learned to stand tall in the face of rejection, there's very little left in this world that can knock you down. So the next time you're rejected, remind yourself, this is armor being built. Every no is a layer of steel being added to your spirit. Every closed door is another opportunity to strengthen your core. You don't have to like rejection, but you should respect it. Because one day, when you're standing in front of your biggest challenge, you'll realize that all the rejection you faced before prepared you to handle it. You'll realize that without those no's, you wouldn't have the resilience to stand in that moment. And here's the most important part. Once you've built that armor, rejection no longer controls you. You control it. You stop fearing it. You stop running from it. And when fear of rejection disappears, freedom appears. You finally become free to chase opportunities, free to take risks, free to live fully without constantly worrying about being turned down. That's what rejection gives you if you let it. It gives you the armor to live unafraid. One of the biggest lies people believe after rejection is that it means they are not good enough. They tell themselves, if I were smarter, more attractive, more talented, more experienced, then they would have chosen me. That inner voice starts to whisper that rejection equals worthlessness. But that is not the truth. Your value does not decrease because someone failed to recognize it. It remains intact, unshaken, and untouched regardless of who does or doesn't see it. Think about gold for a moment. If someone were to throw gold into the dirt, would its value suddenly vanish? Would it stop being precious just because it's covered in mud? Of course not. Gold is gold whether it sits in a display case or in the ground. Its worth is inherent. The same is true for you. Your value isn't determined by who accepts you, who likes you, who hires you, or who chooses to be with you. Your value is intrinsic. Rejection doesn't change that. The only thing rejection does is reveal the other person's inability or unwillingness to see your worth. Yet most people hand over their sense of value to the opinions of others. One no from a person they admire, one rejection from a job application, one breakup, and suddenly they collapse into self-doubt. They think, if they didn't want me, then maybe I really am not enough. But here's the reality. Rejection often says more about the other person than it does about you. Maybe the job wasn't right because the company wasn't aligned with your growth. Maybe the person who left couldn't handle the depth of what you had to offer. Maybe the door closed because the timing was wrong, not because your value was missing. It's dangerous to measure your worth by someone else's recognition. Why? Because recognition is inconsistent. It changes with mood, with perception, with circumstances. One person may overlook you while another may see your brilliance immediately. Does that mean your value shifted in between? No. It means people's ability to see value is often clouded by their own biases, their own needs, their own blind spots. Don't confuse someone's inability to see your worth with the absence of worth itself. Here's a truth you need to hold close. Not everyone is capable of appreciating what you bring to the table. Some people are too distracted, too insecure, too short-sighted to recognize the depth of your abilities or the strength of your character. And that's not your fault. You don't exist to be universally validated. You exist to live out your purpose. If someone fails to see it, that's their loss, not your identity. Rejection feels so personal because it often comes from places where you invested hope. You wanted the job, you wanted the relationship, you wanted the opportunity. And when it doesn't happen, it's easy to equate the closed door with a lack of value. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself, if your worth is tied to whether someone else accepts you, then who really controls your life? Who gets to define you, you or them? The truth is, your value only decreases if you hand it away. Look at some of the greatest minds, creators, and leaders in history. Many of them faced brutal rejection before anyone recognized their value. Authors rejected by dozens of publishers. Artists who died before their work was celebrated. Innovators laughed out of boardrooms. Were they worthless before the world caught up? No. Their value was always there. It just took the right time, the right audience, and the right circumstances for others to finally see it. And sometimes that recognition didn't even come in their lifetime. But their worth was never diminished. What rejection should teach you is not that you are unworthy, but that you must learn to see your own value first. Because when you know your worth, rejection loses its ability to destroy you. It may disappoint you, it may sting, but it will not define you. You'll understand that someone else's no doesn't alter your yes. You'll realize that being overlooked doesn't mean being invisible. It simply means they weren't looking through the right lens. When you internalize this truth, you stop begging for acceptance. You stop trying to prove yourself to people who are blind to your worth. You stop wasting your time chasing recognition from places that cannot give it. Instead, you turn your energy toward growth, improvement, and becoming someone who validates themselves. And here's the paradox. Once you stop needing validation, once you stop hinging your value on others, that's often when the right people, opportunities, and recognition show up. Because confidence in your value is magnetic. You must also understand that rejection often protects you from places where your value would have been wasted. Think of it like this. If someone doesn't recognize your worth, do you really want to spend your energy trying to convince them? Do you really want to pour yourself into a job, a relationship, or a community that fails to see what you bring? That's not where you thrive. That's where you shrink. Rejection clears those places out of your path, so you don't invest your gifts in soil that will never let them grow. So the next time you face rejection, don't let it shake your identity. Don't let it convince you that you're less than who you are. Instead, remind yourself, my value is not up for debate. My worth is not on trial. Whether you see it or not, it remains. Whether you accept me or not, it remains. And just because you failed to recognize it doesn't mean it's not real. It just means you weren't the right one to witness it. The most powerful shift happens when you stop looking at rejection as a verdict and start looking at it as feedback. Not feedback about your worth, but feedback about where your worth is meant to be invested. When someone doesn't choose you, it's not proof that you're not enough. It's proof that you're not aligned with them. And alignment matters. You don't want to be in places with people or in opportunities that don't honor what you bring. Hold your head high when you're rejected. Not out of arrogance, but out of certainty. Certainty that your value is untouched. Certainty that just because they didn't choose you doesn't mean you're unworthy. Certainty that rejection only closes doors that were never meant to hold your greatness in the first place. Because no matter how many times someone fails to see it, your value remains constant. And the right people, the right opportunities, the right doors, they will see it, they will recognize it. Until then, never confuse someone's blindness with your lack of brilliance. There comes a point in life when you have to make a choice. Keep fighting battles that are already lost, or free yourself by accepting what is. Too many people remain trapped, not because rejection broke them, but because they refuse to accept it. They cling to the no they received as if by holding on to it long enough, it will somehow turn into a yes. They replay conversations, analyze moments, and imagine alternate outcomes, thinking that if they had just said the right thing, done the right thing, looked a certain way, everything would have been different. That cycle is not only exhausting, it's destructive. The rejection itself doesn't hold them back. Their refusal to accept it does. Acceptance is freedom. It is the moment you decide that a closed door no longer deserves your energy. It is the strength to say, this happened, I can't change it, but I won't let it chain me. Think about the weight you carry when you resist reality. Every ounce of energy you use, wishing the outcome had been different, is energy stolen from building your future. Every thought you spend on what could have been is a thought you could have used on what still can be. Rejection is painful. Yes, but it's the resistance to it that makes it unbearable. Imagine trying to swim against a powerful current. The harder you fight, the more exhausted you become until you can barely keep your head above water. But the moment you turn and flow with the current, you stop fighting. You conserve energy. You find a rhythm. That's what acceptance does. It doesn't erase the rejection, but it stops you from drowning in it. It allows you to redirect your strength towards something that will actually move you forward. The truth is, people often confuse acceptance with giving up. They think if they accept rejection, it means they've lost. It means they weren't strong enough. It means they didn't fight hard enough. But acceptance is not surrender. It is clarity. It's the wisdom to recognize when something is not yours and the courage to release it. Giving up is walking away out of fear. Acceptance is moving forward out of strength. And there's a huge difference between the two. When you accept rejection, you also accept the reality that not everything is meant for you, and that's okay. You are not supposed to belong everywhere, be chosen by everyone, or succeed at everything. If you did, there would be no growth, no learning, no refinement of who you're meant to become. Acceptance frees you from the illusion that life has to unfold exactly as you planned. It opens your hands so something better can be placed in them. As long as you're clinging to what didn't happen, you leave no room for what could. Think of the people who never move on from a breakup. They spend years waiting for someone who has already walked away. They replay the pain, they chase after closure that never comes, and in doing so, they close themselves off to new love, new joy, new opportunities. Their prison isn't the rejection, it's their refusal to accept it. Now think of those who accept, who grieve the loss, acknowledge the rejection, and then let it go. They may hurt for a while, but eventually they heal. They create space for new beginnings. They are lighter, freer, because they chose acceptance over resistance. There's also a deep dignity in acceptance. It says, I respect myself enough not to beg for what doesn't want me. I respect my journey enough not to waste time forcing what isn't aligned. That kind of dignity gives you peace. You don't need to chase people down. You don't need to twist yourself into knots. You don't need to keep proving yourself to those who already made their choice. Acceptance says, I release this and I move on. That release is where your true power lies. Another layer of acceptance is self-acceptance. Rejection often tempts you to turn against yourself, to think you're not enough, to wish you were someone else. But acceptance means saying, I am who I am, and that is enough. If this wasn't right for me, then something else will be. It's choosing not to betray yourself in the process of being rejected. It's refusing to contort into shapes that are unnatural just to fit into a space you were never meant to fill. The freedom of acceptance comes when you trust that what belongs to you will not require you to beg, force, or chase. And here's something most people miss. The quicker you accept rejection, the quicker you recover. The longer you resist, the longer you stay stuck in bitterness, replaying the past, paralyzed from moving forward. Acceptance cuts the cycle short. It doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It means you won't camp in it. It means you'll experience it, process it, and then continue your journey. That's how people build momentum instead of getting lost in what could have been. So how do you practice acceptance? You stop asking why me and start saying what's next. You stop trying to rewrite the story and begin writing a new chapter. You remind yourself that rejection is not the end of your worth, but the redirection of your path. You look at the closed door, and instead of pounding on it endlessly, you turn your head and search for the one that is opening. And trust me, there is always another door opening. But you can't see it if your eyes are locked on the one that's shut. Acceptance is freedom because it breaks the invisible chains that tie you to the past. It unhooks you from bitterness, from obsession, from constant self-blame. It gives you back your energy, your peace, your ability to move forward. Without acceptance, you live in constant conflict with reality. With acceptance, you align with it and find the strength to continue. So the next time you're rejected, don't fight reality. Don't stay chained to what didn't choose you. Breathe. Accept it. Say to yourself, this wasn't meant for me. Something else is. That simple act of acceptance will release you. It will lighten your spirit. It will give you the freedom to focus on what's ahead instead of being crushed by what's behind. And in that freedom, you'll discover that rejection never had the power to define you, only the power to redirect you. Rejection has a way of hitting us in the gut. It makes the air feel heavy, the world a little darker, and the future a little more uncertain. For many, rejection becomes the reason they stop trying. They let it settle in their bones like a weight that convinces them to give up. They let it write the end of their story. But here's the truth. Rejection doesn't have to be your defeat. In fact, rejection can become the greatest motivation of your life if you let it. Every rejection carries a choice. You can sit in self-pity, replaying the disappointment until you convince yourself you're not good enough. Or you can take that sting, that fire, and turn it into fuel. You can use it to sharpen your skills, focus your energy, and push yourself further than you ever thought possible. Rejection can either be the rock that crushes you or the stone you step on to rise higher. The outcome depends on how you choose to respond. Think about the people who've achieved incredible things. Their stories are not free from rejection. They are filled with it. Athletes cut from teams who later became champions. Authors who faced rejection letters by the dozens before their books sold millions of copies. Innovators laughed out of rooms before their ideas changed industries. If rejection defeated them, we would never know their names. What made them different wasn't talent alone, It was their decision to use rejection as motivation. Every no became a reason to work harder, a reason to prove wrong those who doubted them, and more importantly, a reason to prove to themselves that they could rise above. There is something powerful about being told you can't. It lights a fire deep inside you. If you let it, you begin to train harder, study more, refine your craft, or improve your discipline. You stop expecting things to be handed to you and start earning them. Rejection forces you to step up in ways comfort never would. It demands that you dig deeper, that you commit more fully, that you develop a strength you might never have discovered without the sting of being turned away. But here's the trap most people fall into. They confuse rejection with a permanent no. They think one closed door means every door will remain closed. They let one person's doubt become their truth. But rejection is not a permanent verdict. It's temporary feedback. It's life saying, not this one, not this way, not yet. That doesn't mean never. It means you still have room to grow, space to improve, and strength to build. If you can hear no and keep moving, keep working, keep believing, then you are already on the path to victory. Rejection as motivation also means shifting your perspective. Instead of thinking, I failed, therefore I'm not good enough, you begin to think, I failed, therefore I have something to learn. That shift changes everything. Failure stops being a dead end and becomes a classroom. Every rejection teaches you something about your strategy, about your approach, about the people you're dealing with, or about yourself. If you're paying attention, rejection doesn't set you back. It sets you up for a smarter comeback. It's also important to realize that rejection builds hunger. When you're rejected, it hurts, but that pain can drive you to want it more. It can create a kind of determination that comfort never gives. When you've been told you don't belong, when you've been counted out, when you've been overlooked, that's the exact moment you have a choice to either retreat or rise. If you rise, rejection becomes the very thing that sharpens your edge. It pushes you to go beyond average, beyond acceptable, into excellent. And let's be honest, nothing fuels success like rejection. Victory without struggle is hollow. But when you've been turned away, when you've been doubted, when you've been laughed at, and you still rise, that success carries weight. It's sweeter, more powerful, more defining, because it's not just about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself that rejection cannot break you. That is the kind of motivation that lasts, the kind that builds unshakable confidence. But you have to decide to channel rejection. You can't let it sit inside you as bitterness. You can't use it as an excuse to stop trying. You can't waste time wishing things had gone differently. Instead, you have to convert that energy. Every time someone tells you no, you train yourself to hear, not yet, work harder, keep going. Every time a door closes, you remind yourself that doors are meant to be knocked on until one opens. You don't sit down at the first rejection. You rise and knock again, stronger. Here's the beauty of rejection as motivation. The more you experience it, the less it scares you. Once you realize rejection doesn't end you, you stop fearing it. And when fear disappears, you become bold. You start to take risks others avoid. You put yourself in places others are too afraid to step. Because you know, even if you're rejected, you'll use it as fuel. That makes you unstoppable. So the next time you're rejected, don't sink into defeat. Let it light a fire. Let it push you to grow in ways you didn't know you could. Let it remind you that rejection is not the end of the road. It's the sharpening stone along the way. Because the truth is, the people who achieve greatness are not the ones who never face rejection. They are the ones who refuse to let rejection defeat them. They turn every no into energy, every closed door into motivation, every failure into momentum. And if you can learn to do the same, rejection will no longer be your enemy. It will become your greatest weapon. Rejection is not the enemy, it is the teacher, the refiner, the redirection. Along this journey, we've seen that rejection isn't about you, it's about direction. It isn't the end of your worth. It builds your armor. It sharpens your focus and it challenges you to rise. Your value does not shrink because someone failed to recognize it. Acceptance of rejection doesn't weaken you, it frees you. And when you choose to use rejection as motivation instead of defeat, you transform no into the most powerful fuel for your growth. So the next time the door slams in your face, don't beg for it to reopen. Stand tall. Thank rejection for showing you that there's something greater ahead. Let it drive you, not define you. Let it harden your resolve, not your heart. Because every no you endure is proof that you're still in the fight, still reaching, still moving toward the life that's waiting for you. The strongest people are not those who never face rejection. They are the ones who face it head on and refuse to bow. They turn it into wisdom, into strength, into relentless determination, and that can be you. So when rejection comes, and it will, accept it. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Embrace it as the gift it truly is. Because rejection is not the end of your story. It is the spark that ignites your next chapter. And your next chapter might just be the one that changes everything.